See.
Looks really cool.
Oh, yes, it says La Vie en Rose, to live the life through rose glasses.
Okay. I've been accused of
Little
that.
piece of yeah.
Rose colored. So did you have a good holiday? Anything fun?
Yes, I did. I had a great holiday. And actually, I was sitting out by the pool yesterday and I was thinking about all of the heat that was going on. And I started thinking about a big problem and a big question that so many of our users and clients have about hyperpigmentation due
Uh,
to heat and hormonal changes and melasma. And I thought maybe you could enlighten us about what we should be doing.
that's probably the single most frustrating skin condition that women especially have to deal with. And there's a clue to that, really. Most melasma occurs in women. Occasionally happen in men, but most melasma occurs in women. Why do you think that would be?
I would think it would be because of hormones.
Bingo. Female
Yes.
hormone, estrogen. And
Hmm.
a lot of women know that there's a phenomenon called the mask of pregnancy, where
Yeah.
women will get hyperpigmented when they are pregnant. Women will oftentimes get hyperpigmented, darkened skin when they're on the birth control pill, which
Hmm.
is another source of estrogen, sometimes also on hormone replacement therapy.
Yeah.
So estrogen plays a major role in pigmentation, as does the stress hormone cortisol. And there's something very interesting here because both estrogen and cortisol are part of the stress response. They're manifestations of stress response chemistry. Estrogen, believe it or not, is a type of stress hormone. It's an inflammatory hormone, and it's associated with an activation of the immune system. For example, most autoimmune diseases and most immune diseases occur in women for that
Mhm.
reason. So estrogen is part and parcel of the immune response and the inflammatory response, as is cortisol. And those are the two major hormones that are involved in hyperpigmentation. Insulin plays a role, thyroid hormone also plays a role, but for the most part, we're talking about cortisol and estrogen. And that is really the key to understanding melasma, why it happens, and also how to deal with it. Melasma, hyperpigmentation, is the manifestation of the stress response. It's one of the manifestations of the stress response. It's a sign that the body is under duress, or at least that there's hormone signals that are associated with duress. So the key to handling melasma, first of all, this is why melasma is so difficult to treat, because the body perceives pigmentation as being important, as being
Right.
serious. So you can't really stop that. You can't really overwhelm that stress response, which to the body has a survival imperative, with anything less than either powerful drugs or powerful topicals. Even powerful topicals don't work that well because melasma comes back. And that's
Right.
really what we're relegated to when it comes to treating melasma is topical ingredients or topical strategies that really only work, if they work at all, only work in the short run. And that is things like exfoliation or so-called tyrosinase inhibitors or drugs like hydroquinone or retinoic acid. So if you have melasma, number one, you can deal with it temporarily or in the short term by using peels, by using retinol, which I absolutely love. And by the way, retinol has the same potency as hydroquinone, and hydroquinone has a toxicity that retinol doesn't have. So I always prefer that if my patients are going to use topical strategies to get rid of melasma, that they use retinol rather than hydroquinone. Unfortunately, if you use retinol or even hydroquinone, or you go with the skin peels, like a Jesner's peel or even a alpha or beta hydroxy acid peel, ironically, you can actually induce
Mm.
post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation. Hyperpigmentation is associated with inflammation, particularly if you have hormonal imbalances. So the best strategy is going to be multifaceted strategy. Number one, you address pigmentation topically to get rid of the pigmentation using retinol preferably, because then you get anti-aging benefits and you get skin conditioning benefits in
Right.
addition to the depigmenting benefits. If you use hydroquinone, you don't get any skin conditioning. In fact, you get toxicity. You can also use some peels. Peels will also give you some anti-aging benefits. And then after you use your peels and with your retinol, you stabilize the skin with fat-soluble vitamin C. Fat
Mm.
soluble vitamin C does a couple of things. Number one, it calms the skin down to reduce the likelihood of post inflammatory hyperpigmentation. Plus, fat soluble vitamin C is a skin lightener in its own right. So
Yep.
if you use both retinol and fat-soluble vitamin C, ideally. Or if you want to go the drug route, use hydroquinone and fat-soluble vitamin C. Or if you want to do peels, your Jesner's peel has resorcinol in it, which is a skin lightener, and that's usually the peel of choice for hyperpigmentation. Follow it with vitamin C. Follow your peel with vitamin C. Use vitamin C with your retinol. Fat-soluble vitamin C will get you better penetration and more stability. We're always talking about fat-soluble vitamin C. And that way you'll get your peeling, or you'll get your pigment reduction, and you'll reduce the likelihood of further pigmentation. Plus, you get all the wonderful benefits of fat-soluble vitamin C. If you use retinol and vitamin C, you'll get depigmenting, you'll get skin lightening, you'll get the benefits of the skin conditioning and anti-aging benefits of the retinol and the vitamin C, and the fat-soluble vitamin C will reduce the likelihood of further pigmentation. Then simultaneously, with your topical strategies, you want to use internal strategies. There's lots of internal strategies. For one thing, essential fatty acids have a nice estrogen balancing effect. You can help the body eliminate estrogen by improving bowel functioning, improving gallbladder functioning, perhaps using progesterone, which helps balance out estrogen. Progesterone can be taken as a prescription drug internally or used topically. You can also use a nutritional, it's a hormone, but you can get it at health food stores. It's not really nutritional, it's more hormonal, called pregnenolone. I don't know if you ever heard of pregnenolone, Pregnenolone. And pregnenolone is a couple of interesting things. First of all, it'll balance out estrogen, but it'll also help balance out cortisol. Remember, cortisol, stress hormone, is also involved in the pigmenting process. So by using pregnenolone orally, you can have you get multiple benefits. You'll balance out your estrogen and you'll balance out your cortisol. There are other nutrients that balance out cortisol. Vitamin A and vitamin E will balance out cortisol. And a really important strategy for helping balance out cortisol is keeping your blood sugar stable. So your insulin doesn't spike and your blood sugar doesn't spike. Insulin, elevated blood sugar, and elevated insulin can also be associated with pigmentation. And then one of the reasons why women have estrogen problems, there's a lot of problems associated with estrogen, including reproductive issues, endometriosis, fibromyalgia, problems with the menstrual cycle, as a woman goes into menopause, hot flashes and night sweats, weight gain, depression, insomnia. These can all be associated with improper clearance of estrogen. Estrogen has to be cleared out through the intestine using bile. So working on the gallbladder, working on bile, using bile salts as a supplement can be helpful. Using lecithin granules can be helpful. Magnesium can help balance out estrogen. Plus, it can eliminate bowel functioning, the elimination of estrogen. Likewise, probiotics, good bacteria, can have a beneficial effect. And also fiber, making sure you're getting enough fiber. Fiber can improve bowel functioning, improve bowel movements, and it can also help stick to estrogen. So it helps you eliminate estrogen in that regard. Understanding the relationship between intestinal health, the health of the gallbladder, the health of the hormones, are all places where we can work when it comes to hyperpigmentation that we don't often think about. Most people think about hyperpigmentation, they immediately go to hydroquinone, or they immediately go to the so-called tyrosinase inhibitors, or if they're smart, they'll go sometimes to retinol and vitamin C. But understanding the relationship between female hormones, between intestinal functioning, gallbladder functioning, cortisol, stress hormone, and even blood sugar and insulin, and also, by the way, hypothyroidism sometimes plays a role in pigmentation. And by working hormonally, working on cortisol, working on estrogen, working on the digestive system, intestinal health, and gallbladder functioning, you will be able to stabilize the blood sugar system, improve hormonal health, female hormonal health, improve stress hormone, and also improve blood sugar control, thereby preventing and reducing the likelihood of melasma from the inside out as you're using your topical strategies, your retinol, your fat-soluble vitamin C, your Jesner's peels, in conjunction with all these wonderful internal strategies. And you'll be adding years to your life on top of everything else. And you'll be reducing the likelihood of other health challenges.
Wonderful. That's all very exciting. Do you have any advice for the heat? Because many people they react to the heat. Yeah.
That's really interesting you say that. There is and I don't want to get too much of a digression because, we can talk forever on this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There's a molecule that is secreted by bacteria that live in the small intestine, unfortunately, not supposed to be in the small intestine, when you have this condition called SIBO, small
Uh-huh.
intestinal bacterial overgrowth. I think we may have talked about this in the past.
Yeah.
Bacteria are supposed to live in the large intestine, not in the small intestine, but they can translocate to the small intestine under certain conditions, eating the wrong foods, problems with stomach acid, problems with bile. And when they translocate to the small intestine, you end up with this condition called SIBO, or you can end up with SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth.
Mm-hmm.
SIBO, in turn, can lead to a leaky gut, which I know you've heard of, leaky gut
Yeah.
syndrome or intestinal permeability syndrome. Once that intestinal lining expands and toxins can get into the bloodstream, you could run into a really interesting, very problematic condition. It's kind of interesting where a molecule called histamine is secreted from bacteria into the bloodstream.
Mm-hmm.
Histamine is also secreted into the bloodstream via immune cells that are called mast cells. And there are a lot of folks who are dealing with excess histamine production or histamine overload or histamine intolerance, some people say, and a combination combined with something called mast cell activation syndrome. Have you heard of this? MCAS?
Yeah.
Mast cell activation syndrome is associated with toxicity that's getting into the bloodstream. Mast cells will release histamine. Also, histamine can come in through these bacteria. Histamine can also come in through foods. So even some
Mm-hmm.
good foods, avocados and spinach and eggplant, these can all be sources of histamine. Brussels sprouts and cruciferous vegetables can be sources of histamine. Fermented foods can be sources of histamine. Leftover foods, smoked meats, cheeses, shellfish, citrus fruits can all induce histamine, excess histamine, or histamine intolerance. When
Mm-hmm.
histamine levels are high, you're dealing with mast cell activation syndrome or leaky gut, or you're eating histamine containing foods, histamine and mast cell activation syndrome can cause people to react to anything. There
Okay.
are people who will react to the sun. There are people who will react to hot water. There are people who will react to tight clothing.
Yeah.
Now, all of these, right? There are
Mm-hmm.
people who will react to anything. Those are the people who say, everything I put on my skin makes me break out, or
Right.
everything I eat makes me break out. Or also, these are people who will put retinol on their skin and
And
come
the.
back with massive breakouts or
Mm-hmm.
massive irritation. Of course, they'll blame the retinol, and it's not the retinol, it's the inflammatory factors, particularly histamine, that are in the blood. So, understanding the relationship between histamine and sensitivity, sensitive skin, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's to products or whether it's to ingredients or whether it's even to things like the sun or warm water or tight clothing, understanding the relationship between this molecule, histamine, digestive health, leaky gut, SIBO, and how the skin responds to various products or various environmental factors is really, really important because there's lots of things you could do to reduce histamine secretion by working on digestive health, by eliminating SIBO, by changing your diet, working on the gallbladder and bile, making sure that you're avoiding histamine-containing foods. There's great nutrients, by the way, that have antihistamine properties. For example, zinc has antihistamine
Mm-hmm.
properties. Melatonin has antihistaminic properties. Cannabinoids like CBD have antihistaminic properties. And my favorite antihistamine is vitamin C.
Yeah.
Right? And
Mm-hmm.
vitamin C applied topically to rashy skin or skin that has been sensitized by retinol or by other ingredients. Applying fat soluble vitamin C can have a wonderful calming effect on the skin, whether we're calming irritation or sensitivities or even melasma. Again,
Mm-hmm.
demonstrating how powerful vitamin C is. And this was my thinking when I put fat soluble vitamin C in combination with our retinol. All our retinol products always have a big old dose of fat soluble vitamin C. And this is kind of interesting because what do you always hear about vitamin C and retinol from
Not supposed to mix
estheticians?
them.
Never mix, you're not supposed to mix them together.
Yeah.
Au contraire, they are ideal together. They're perfect together. But you got to have fat soluble vitamin C because the retinol can actually accelerate the breakdown of ascorbic acid or the cheap water soluble vitamin C, and the other way around. Ascorbic acid can destabilize retinol. But when you put fat soluble vitamin C with retinol, you get the wonderful vitamin C benefits, the wonderful retinol benefits, and the vitamin C can reduce the likelihood of any kind of sensitivity reaction that somebody may have if they have histamine intolerance or mast cell activation syndrome in response to retinol.
Okay.
All right.
See, a lot of information. Thank you. Yes,
That's a lot of good stuff. Thank you
yes,
so
it's a lot of
much.
good stuff. Thank you.
And then why don't you tell folks how they can get a hold of you?
Oh, well, you can reach me through True Treatments at support@truthtreatmentsystemspro.com. You can also find all of our information on truthtreatmentsystems.com website, truthtreatments.com. And what else? Reach out directly to us. We're always here. We're always happy to answer questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much,
Yeah,
Kristen. Bye, everybody.
absolutely.